Sometimes the gentlest voice is the only thing powerful enough to wake a sleeping king. Clara Bennett had heard the old stories her entire life, whispered around fireplaces and passed between trembling voices whenever the wind howled through the pines. They spoke of a beast hidden deep within twilight pines, a creature so ancient and broken that even the bravest hunters avoided its territory. Some said it had once been a king. Others claimed it was nothing more than a curse wearing the shape of a monster. Clara never believed any of it. She had more practical worries. At 23, she was an Omega no pack truly wanted, a quiet woman with worn boots, a patched gray coat, and a reputation for caring too much about things everyone else ignored. The rain had started before sunset, turning the forest trails into muddy ribbons beneath her feet. She should have been heading home. Instead, she wandered deeper into the trees, searching for moonroot herbs that only bloomed after storms. Thunder rolled somewhere beyond the hills. The sound echoed through the dark woods like a distant warning. Clara tightened her grip on the lantern hanging from her hand and continued forward. Then she heard it. A low sound, weak, barely audible beneath the rain. She froze. The forest seemed to hold its breath. Another sound followed. Not a growl, not a cry. More like a tired exhale from something struggling to remain awake. Clara's heart began to pound. Every instinct told her to turn around. Yet something else pulled her forward. Curiosity, compassion, maybe both. She stepped off the trail and followed the sound through dripping branches and tangled roots. The trees gradually opened into a hidden clearing she had never seen before. In the center stood the ruins of an ancient stone structure. Ivy covered the walls. Moss climbed the broken pillars. Rainwater streamed across weathered carvings that had long ago lost their meaning. And there, beneath the shattered archway, lay the largest creature Clara had ever seen. Her breath caught. The beast was enormous. Dark fur glistened beneath the rain. Powerful shoulders rose and fell with slow, uneven breaths. It looked less like a wolf and more like something pulled from a forgotten legend. Yet despite its size, there was no menace in the sight before her. Only exhaustion. Loneliness. Sorrow. Clara didn't know why that was the feeling that struck her first. Sorrow. The beast's eyes remained closed. It seemed completely unaware of her presence. For a long moment, she simply stood there, staring. Then she noticed the old iron chains scattered across the stone floor. She noticed faded symbols carved into the ruins. She noticed how silent the clearing felt, as if time itself had stopped moving here years ago. A strange ache settled in her chest. Slowly, carefully, Clara stepped closer. Rain dripped from her hair. The lantern light flickered across the beast's sleeping face. "Hey," she whispered softly, her voice barely louder than the rain. "You're not alone." The moment the words left her lips, something changed. The air seemed to shimmer. A faint warmth spread through the clearing. And for the first time in years, far beneath heavy eyelids that had remained closed to the world, the Alpha King's eyes began to open. Clara stumbled backward as two silver eyes slowly opened beneath the rain. For a heartbeat, she forgot how to breathe. The creature did not move. It did not growl. It simply looked at her. Those eyes carried something she had never expected to find inside a forgotten beast hidden deep within the forest. Awareness, intelligence, loneliness. The warm sensation lingering in the clearing continued to spread through the ancient ruins. Clara tightened her grip on the lantern. Every story she had ever heard insisted she should run. Yet the creature remained perfectly still, watching her with quiet curiosity. Rain dripped from the broken arch above them. Water rolled across the dark fur covering its enormous frame. Up close, the exhaustion in its expression became impossible to ignore. It looked less like a predator and more like someone who had carried a burden for far too long. "Can you understand me?" Clara asked softly. The silver eyes blinked once. Then again, a strange emotion flickered across the creature's face. Relief, as though hearing another voice after endless silence felt almost impossible to believe. Clara took a careful step closer. The forest remained silent around them. No birds sang. No insects buzzed. Everything seemed suspended in the moment. "I do not know who you are," she whispered, "but you look tired." The creature's ears shifted slightly. Another warm pulse traveled through the air. Clara felt it against her skin like sunlight breaking through storm clouds. Something inside her chest responded. The same gentle feeling she experienced whenever she comforted frightened animals or soothed injured creatures. Only this time the sensation felt stronger, older, as if it had been waiting years for this exact moment. She knelt beside the fallen archway and set her lantern down. The beast continued watching her. Its breathing gradually became steadier. Clara noticed faint silver markings hidden beneath the dark fur. Ancient symbols woven into its coat, like moonlight trapped beneath shadow. She had never seen anything like them before. "You have been here for a long time, have you not?" she asked. The creature slowly lowered its head. Clara could not explain why, but the gesture felt like an answer. Her heart ached unexpectedly. Years of solitude. Years without conversation. Years hidden from the world. The thought alone felt unbearable. She reached out carefully. Her fingers hesitated inches from the creature's forehead. The silver eyes never left hers. "It is okay," she whispered. "I am not afraid of you." The instant her fingertips touched the soft fur, a wave of golden light surged through the ruins. Clara gasped. Images flashed through her mind. Towering stone walls. A silver crown. Vast crowds standing beneath moonlit banners. Then a man. Tall. Powerful. Silver eyes identical to the ones staring at her now. The vision vanished as quickly as it appeared. Clara pulled her hand back in shock. The creature closed its eyes briefly, as if gathering strength. Then, for the first time, a voice echoed inside her thoughts. Deep, gentle, worn by time. Clara. Her eyes widened. She had never heard that voice before. Yet somehow it felt familiar. The creature slowly lifted its head once more. The rain began to ease above them. Far beyond the ruins, hidden among the distant trees, another presence stirred. Someone was searching for the forgotten king. And for the first time in many years, hope had awakened before they could find him. Clara remained frozen beside the ancient archway long after the voice faded from her thoughts. Rainwater slipped from the broken stones and collected in shallow pools across the clearing. Her pulse raced. She knew what she had heard. The voice had spoken her name with quiet certainty, as though it had known her for years. Yet that was impossible. She had never seen this place before tonight. She had never seen the silver-eyed beast. And still, something deep inside her refused to feel fear. The creature watched her carefully. Its breathing had become stronger now, not fully recovered, but no longer carrying the same crushing exhaustion she had first noticed. The golden warmth lingering in the air seemed connected to both of them. Clara could feel it moving through her chest like a gentle current. She lowered herself onto a fallen stone and studied the creature in silence. "Who are you?" she finally whispered. The beast blinked slowly. Images flickered again at the edge of her mind. Towering gates, moonlit banners, crowds gathered beneath silver flags. She caught the brief glimpse of the same silver eyes looking out from the face of a man seated upon a throne. Then the vision vanished. Clara pressed a hand against her forehead. The flashes felt real, more like memories than dreams. Before she could make sense of them, a distant sound echoed through the forest. Voices, human voices. The beast reacted immediately. Its ears shifted toward the trees. The calm expression in its eyes sharpened with alertness. Clara stood and listened. The voices were far away, but moving closer. Several people were searching the woods despite the storm. Lantern lights flickered faintly through the darkness beyond the clearing. "Are they looking for you?" Clara asked. The beast slowly rose onto its feet. The movement revealed its incredible size. Even standing several yards away, Clara felt the presence it carried. Not threatening, powerful, ancient. The silver markings beneath its fur glowed, faintly before fading once more. The creature stepped between Clara and the direction of the approaching voices. The gesture surprised her. It felt protective, as though it was shielding her rather than itself. Another pulse of warmth passed through the air. Then the voice returned inside her thoughts. Softer this time. "We must leave." Clara's breath caught. She should have been terrified. Instead, she found herself trusting the strange voice more than the distant strangers moving through the forest. The beast turned toward a narrow opening hidden behind the ruins. Ivy concealed an ancient pathway descending deeper into the hills. Clara hesitated only a moment before picking up her lantern. Something important was unfolding. She could feel it. The stories she had grown up hearing were missing pieces of the truth. And somewhere beyond those missing pieces waited the answer to why a forgotten king had awakened when she spoke his name into the rain. As the distant lanterns drew nearer, Clara followed the silver-eyed creature into the hidden passage, unaware that the people searching the forest carried news that would soon change both their lives forever. The narrow passage twisted through the hills, roots and moss creating a natural corridor that seemed untouched by time. Clara carefully stepped behind the silver-eyed creature, her lantern casting long shadows that danced across the stone walls. The sound of the approaching searchers had grown louder, but within the hidden pathway, it was almost as if they were swallowed by the forest itself. Clara's heart beat steadily now, no longer from fear alone, but from anticipation. Every step revealed more of the hidden path, glimpses of carved stones and symbols, evidence of an ancient past layered beneath the ivy and moss. The creature stopped briefly, glancing back at her with a look that conveyed patience and understanding. Clara realized she had never felt such a connection with anyone or anything before. It was as if the forest, the ruins, and this guardian were all aligned with her presence. She lowered the lantern to examine the carvings. The symbols glowed faintly in the golden light that still lingered around them, an ethereal response to her touch and proximity. A sensation of warmth spread through her fingers and up her arms, mingling with the cool moisture of the rain-soaked air. The silver eyes shifted again, urging her onward, leading her to a hidden chamber partially collapsed, yet offering enough shelter for them both. Clara stepped inside, her lantern revealing a circle of smooth stones, arranged as though waiting for something significant to occur. She sensed the energy in the space, subtle yet compelling, like the echo of a long-forgotten ritual. The creature lowered itself into the center of the circle, and Clara followed, kneeling just beside it. For a moment, time seemed suspended. The forest outside was alive with shadows and distant sounds, but within this chamber, there was calm. Clara whispered a word she did not fully understand but felt compelled to speak, and the golden warmth intensified, flowing outward and embracing the space around them. The silver eyes blinked once, then focused fully on her, and in that gaze, Clara perceived recognition, gratitude, and an unspoken promise. She reached forward cautiously, placing her hand upon the creature's chest where she had first felt the pulse of life and warmth. Light bloomed softly from her touch, illuminating the symbols on the floor and the walls, revealing more of the intricate carvings, telling stories of kings, guardians, and bonds forged through trust and courage. A gentle hum resonated in the air, vibrating with the energy between them. Clara could feel it coursing through her veins, as if the chamber itself acknowledged her role in what was unfolding. Outside, the first hints of dawn began to touch the edges of the forest, streaks of pale light filtering through the mist, painting the chamber with the promise of a new day. She heard the faint rustle of footsteps still searching, yet the hidden path kept them concealed, and the creature's presence offered silent protection. Clara's confidence grew, tempered by awe and responsibility. She had become part of something ancient, a catalyst for awakening, and the air around them seemed to pulse with anticipation of what was to come. The golden warmth, the silver gaze, and the soft murmurs of the forest combined, creating a moment suspended between past and future, a silent prelude to the awakening that would soon change both their lives forever. The first rays of dawn slipped through narrow cracks in the hidden chamber, turning the ancient carvings into ribbons of silver and gold. Clara sat quietly beside the creature, unable to shake the feeling that the world beyond these walls had already begun to change. The warmth flowing between them had not faded. If anything, it had grown steadier, like a heartbeat finding its rhythm after years of silence. The silver-eyed guardian rested in the center of the stone circle, yet something about him seemed different now. Stronger, more awake. Clara watched as faint strands of light drifted across the markings hidden beneath his dark fur. They no longer appeared random. They looked deliberate, almost royal. She remembered the visions she had seen. The throne, the banners, the silver crown. None of it felt like imagination. A sudden gust of wind swept through the passage behind them. Clara turned. The chamber remained hidden, but distant voices echoed faintly from somewhere beyond the hills. The searchers were still out there, closer than before. The creature lifted his head immediately. His silver eyes narrowed toward the entrance. Clara noticed the change in his expression. Not fear, concern. It was the look of someone calculating danger long before it arrived. Then another voice touched her thoughts, stronger than before. They are looking for me. Clara swallowed. The words carried weight now. The connection between them seemed clearer with every passing minute. Who are they? She whispered. For a moment, only silence answered. Then fragments appeared inside her mind. Men carrying silver banners. Riders crossing mountain roads. Towers rising above clouds. A kingdom waiting. Clara gasped softly as the images faded. The creature slowly stood. As he did, the chamber itself seemed to respond. Ancient symbols along the walls shimmered with pale light. Dust drifted from the ceiling. Somewhere deep beneath the earth, an old power stirred. Clara rose to her feet. You were important, she said quietly. Before this happened, the silver eyes met hers. This time she felt an unmistakable answer. Not through words. Through emotion. Duty. Sacrifice. Loss. Loneliness. The feelings washed over her heart with surprising force. Whoever he had been, he had carried enormous responsibility before disappearing from the world. Then something unexpected happened. The creature stepped closer and lowered his head. A faint glow gathered between them. Clara felt warmth spread across her palm without realizing she had lifted her hand. The moment her fingers brushed his forehead, another vision exploded into view. A great hall filled with people. Thousands of voices. A man standing beneath a silver crown. The same silver eyes. The same presence. And a name. Ethan Hawthorne. Clara staggered backward as the vision vanished. Her heart pounded against her ribs. Ethan. The name echoed through her thoughts. The creature remained still, watching her carefully. He did not deny it. He did not need to. Suddenly, a distant horn sounded somewhere beyond the forest. Once. Then again. Clara saw the reaction immediately. Ethan turned toward the hidden passage. The warmth surrounding them shifted. Not fading. Preparing. Whatever had awakened inside these ruins was no longer a secret. And somewhere beyond the trees, people were coming who would soon discover that the king they believed lost forever was no longer sleeping. The horn echoed again across the distant forest, lingering in the cool morning air long after the sound itself had faded. Clara stood motionless within the ancient chamber, her heart still racing from the name she had uncovered. Ethan Hawthorne, the lost king, the forgotten ruler from the visions. The realization felt impossible, yet every instinct told her it was true. The silver-eyed creature watched her quietly. There was no pride in his gaze, no arrogance, only the weary patience of someone who had carried an impossible burden for far too long. Another pulse of golden warmth drifted between them. Clara noticed that the ancient symbols surrounding the chamber had grown brighter. The carvings no longer appeared dormant. They seemed awake, responding to Ethan's presence and to the connection forming between them. Outside, the forest stirred. Birds cautiously returned to the branches. Sunlight filtered through the trees in long shafts of gold. It was the first peaceful morning Clara could remember in years. Yet beneath that calm, something significant was approaching. Ethan slowly stepped toward the center of the stone circle. The moment his paw touched the carved symbols, light flowed across the floor like liquid silver. Clara gasped. The entire chamber responded. Ancient markings illuminated one after another, revealing details hidden beneath centuries of dust and stone. Images appeared across the walls. Great cities, towering castles, vast forests protected beneath silver banners. Clara recognized them immediately from her visions. This had once been a place of remembrance, a sanctuary connected to the royal bloodline. Ethan lowered his head as though recognizing it as well. For several moments, neither of them spoke. Then a new sensation reached Clara through their strange bond. Hope. It was faint, fragile, yet unmistakable. She realized with sudden clarity that Ethan had expected to remain forgotten forever. The years of silence had convinced him that the world had moved on without him. But now everything was changing. Clara stepped closer. You are not alone anymore, she whispered. Ethan's silver eyes softened. The golden warmth around them brightened immediately. The response felt almost instinctive. Before Clara could fully process it, another image appeared in her mind. A council chamber filled with worried faces. Advisors searching maps. Messengers riding across distant territories. Entire regions still searching for their missing king. Clara's eyes widened. They had never stopped looking. Somewhere beyond the forest, people still believed Ethan could be found. The realization brought unexpected emotion to her chest. He had not been abandoned. He had been missed. Deeply. Suddenly, footsteps echoed faintly from the hidden passage leading toward the chamber. Clara turned immediately. The searchers had found something. Their voices remained distant, but closer than before. Ethan heard them, too. His attention shifted toward the entrance. Yet instead of tension, Clara sensed calm determination flowing through him. Whatever happened next, he no longer seemed like a creature hiding from the world. He felt like a king preparing to face it again. The silver markings beneath his dark fur glowed brighter than ever before. The chamber responded with another wave of light. And as Clara looked into Ethan's eyes, she realized the awakening had never been about opening them from sleep. It had been about reminding a forgotten king who he truly was. The footsteps beyond the hidden passage grew louder with every passing minute. Clara could now distinguish individual voices carried through the ancient tunnels. Some sounded hopeful. Others sounded exhausted. It was the sound of people who had searched for a very long time and were afraid to believe they might finally be close to the answer. The chamber itself seemed to sense their approach. The silver light woven through the carvings continued to brighten, reflecting across the stone walls like moonlight dancing on water. Ethan stood at the center of the circle, no longer appearing like a forgotten creature hidden from the world. There was a quiet strength in the way he carried himself now. Clara could feel it through the bond connecting them. Confidence, resolve, purpose. The emotions flowed steadily between them, no longer fragmented or distant. The years of silence that had surrounded him were beginning to break apart. A sudden tremor of energy moved through the chamber. Clara looked down as the symbols beneath their feet glowed brighter than ever before. Ancient lines connected across the floor, forming an intricate design that had remained hidden for centuries. Then another vision touched her thoughts. This time it was clearer than any before. She saw Ethan standing in human form beneath a silver banner. Advisors gathered around him. Children laughing in a castle courtyard. Villages thriving beneath his protection. She saw kindness in the eyes of the king. Patience. Responsibility. The image shattered every frightening rumor she had ever heard growing up. When the vision faded, Clara realized something important. Ethan had never been remembered simply because he was powerful. He had been remembered because people genuinely cared about him. The realization filled her chest with unexpected warmth. Moments later, voices echoed from the tunnel entrance. Lantern light appeared beyond the shadows. Ethan lifted his gaze. Clara turned toward the approaching figures. 3 travelers emerged cautiously into the chamber. Their clothing was worn from weeks of travel. Silver insignias decorated their cloaks. The moment they stepped into the light, they froze. One elderly man dropped to his knees immediately. A younger woman covered her mouth with trembling hands. The third traveler simply stared, unable to speak. Clara felt the shock radiating from all of them. Ethan remained still. For several seconds, nobody moved. Then the elderly man took a hesitant step forward. Tears filled his eyes. "Your Majesty," he whispered. The words echoed through the chamber. Clara watched disbelief turn into certainty across their faces. They had found him. After all these years, they had finally found him. The golden warmth surrounding Ethan responded instantly. Light flowed through the carvings and across the chamber walls. The travelers exchanged stunned looks. The younger woman began to cry quietly, not from sadness. Relief. Pure relief. Ethan stepped forward. The movement was simple, yet it carried the weight of an entire kingdom waiting beyond the forest. Clara sensed the emotions flooding through him. Gratitude. Hope. Determination. For the first time since she had entered the ruins, she felt the future opening before them. The search was over. The awakening was real. And somewhere far beyond Twilight Pines, a kingdom was about to learn that its lost king was finally coming home. The journey out of the hidden chamber began beneath a sky washed clean by the storm. Clara walked beside Ethan as the 3 travelers guided them through the ancient passageways and into the morning light. The forest seemed different now, brighter, alive in a way it had not been before. Sunlight filtered through the towering pines, scattering golden patterns across the ground. Birds filled the air with cautious songs, as though nature itself sensed the return of something long missing. The travelers never strayed far from Ethan. Even now, they occasionally glanced toward him as if afraid he might disappear again. Clara understood the feeling. Everything that had happened still felt unreal. Only days ago, she had been an overlooked omega gathering herbs in the rain. Now she walked beside a king whose return could change an entire kingdom. As they followed a winding trail through the hills, Ethan remained unusually quiet. Yet through the bond connecting them, Clara felt his thoughts more clearly than ever. He was remembering. Every mile seemed to awaken another piece of the life he had lost. Names, places, promises, responsibilities. The kingdom waiting beyond the mountains no longer felt like a distant vision. It was becoming real. Near midday, they reached a ridge overlooking a vast valley. Clara stopped in awe. Far in the distance, silver towers rose above the horizon. Sunlight reflected from their rooftops like scattered stars. Villages dotted the rolling landscape. Rivers wound through green fields. The sight stole her breath. One of the travelers smiled through tears. "Welcome home, Your Majesty," he said softly. Ethan stood motionless, gazing across the kingdom. Clara felt a surge of emotion flow through their connection. Not pride, gratitude. Deep and overwhelming gratitude. For years he had believed this view was lost to him forever. Yet here it stood, unchanged and waiting. As they continued down the ridge, more people began appearing along the roads. Farmers, merchants, travelers moving between villages. At first they paid little attention. Then whispers started spreading. Heads turned. Conversations stopped. People stared at Ethan with growing disbelief. Clara watched the realization move from one person to another like a ripple across water. An elderly woman dropped a basket of flowers and pressed a trembling hand against her mouth. A young boy pointed excitedly from the side of the road. Soon more voices joined the whispers. Hope traveled faster than certainty, yet it traveled nonetheless. By evening, they arrived at a small village resting beside a river. The moment Ethan stepped into the square, silence fell. Every face turned toward him. Nobody spoke. Nobody moved. Then a gray-haired man stepped forward from the crowd. His eyes filled with tears. "The king," he whispered. The words broke the silence. Emotion swept through the gathering. Smiles appeared. Tears followed. People embraced one another. Clara stood quietly at the edge of the square, watching everything unfold. For the first time, she truly understood what Ethan meant to them. He was not simply their ruler. He was their symbol of safety, stability, and hope. As the sun disappeared beyond the hills, golden light bathed the village. Ethan turned toward Clara. Their eyes met across the crowd. In that moment, surrounded by people celebrating his return, Clara felt a truth settle gently into her heart. She had not merely awakened a king. She had helped an entire kingdom remember how to hope again. 3 days later, the gates of the capital opened beneath a sky of brilliant blue. Clara stood beside Ethan as thousands gathered along the wide stone avenues leading toward the royal palace. Silver banners fluttered in the breeze. Bells echoed from distant towers. Everywhere she looked, people filled the streets. Families stood shoulder to shoulder. Children sat on their parents' shoulders to catch a glimpse of the king they had feared was lost forever. The city itself seemed alive with joy. Ethan walked calmly through the celebration, greeting those who had waited years for his return. Yet despite the cheers surrounding him, Clara noticed that his attention often returned to her. The bond between them had grown stronger each day. No longer confusing, no longer uncertain. It felt as natural as breathing. When they finally reached the palace courtyard, sunlight poured across the marble stones like liquid gold. Advisors, leaders, and representatives from every corner of the kingdom waited there. Many were openly emotional. Others appeared stunned that the impossible had become reality. Ethan stepped forward and faced them. Silence settled over the courtyard. Then, for the first time since his awakening, he spoke aloud. His voice carried across the gathering. With quiet strength, he thanked them for their loyalty. He thanked them for never giving up hope. Most of all, he promised that the years ahead would be guided not by fear, but by compassion, unity, and service. The crowd erupted into applause. Clara felt tears gathering in her eyes. This was the man she had seen in her visions. The king people remembered, the protector they trusted. As the celebration continued, an elderly advisor approached Clara. His smile was warm and knowing. "The kingdom owes you more than words can express," he said softly. Clara immediately shook her head. "I only tried to help someone who seemed alone." The advisor's eyes brightened. "Exactly," he replied. Later that evening, As the sun dipped below the palace gardens, Ethan found Clara standing beside a fountain surrounded by white roses. The noise of the celebration drifted softly from distant halls. For a moment, neither spoke. The peaceful silence felt familiar, comfortable. Ethan looked toward the horizon where the last rays of sunlight painted the sky in gold and silver. Then he turned toward Clara. Through the bond, she felt everything he could not fully express with words. Gratitude, respect, trust, and something even deeper. The realization that none of this would have happened without her kindness on a rainy night in the forest. Clara smiled gently. "You were never truly forgotten," she said. Ethan returned the smile. The expression transformed his entire face. "Neither were you," he answered. The evening breeze carried the scent of blooming flowers through the garden. Somewhere beyond the palace walls, the kingdom celebrated its future. Yet in that quiet moment, Clara understood the true lesson hidden within everything that had happened. Strength was not found in crowns, titles, or power. It was found in compassion. A single act of kindness had awakened hope, restored a kingdom, and changed 2 lives forever. And as the first stars appeared above the palace, the future stretched before them bright, peaceful, and full of promise.